Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders and humans share their story behind their spreadsheets. I'm Alex Roman, and this podcast is brought to you by these guys at South Offices, connecting accounting talent across borders. Today, I have a special guest, Michael Coronado. Coronado, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly in my Spanish accent, president at Pronto Advisors. I understand Michael likes food traveling and an expert in finance. Michael, it's a pleasure to have you here in Humans in Accounting. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Alex. I appreciate it.
It's great. We started our. The truth is that we never met physically. You are in Miami, correct?
That's right. Yes, we're in Miami.
You're in Miami. Visited. I'm Argentinian. You know that already. And for us Argentinians, like Miami is probably the first destination that we go. Probably in my personal life, it's the place that I've been the most out of all the states and all the cities in the United
It is
States.
considered the gateway to the Americas. So yes, I would totally expect that.
Yeah. Next time I'm there, I'll let you know, and we can have a coffee, a beer, or something.
Absolutely.
Michael, well, it's great having you here in Humans in Accounting. Let's start out. I wanna know a little bit more about Pronto Advisors. I know that you've been in business for forever. Tell me a little bit about how you guys started that story for me.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short because we've been in business, like you said, a long time, 35 years. My father started the firm, who was actually, we're sometimes, taking bad things and turning them to good. He had a practice that he worked nights and weekends where he did tax work and accounting for a couple of firms. He got laid off in 1991 and he decided, you know what? I'm not going to work for anyone ever again. He actually did a title loan against his car, borrowed some money, rented the office space, and actually, even though we've been here for 35 years, we were in the office space next door. We moved into this larger suite halfway through. So we've been like about the same amount of time in both places. But we started off, purely being much more tax focused. And in fact,
Mhm.
before, we went through actually two name changes. Technically, we started off as fast refunds shortly. And my dad realized, we're in Miami, and as you mentioned, lots of Latins, lots of Spanish speakers, and realized that didn't really resonate as much, uh, and transitioned into Pronto income tax. And it still had to do with the same thing. That's when electronic filing really started taking off. That's when this whole idea of refund anticipation loans, or RALs. So it's basically you would get a refund, you're expecting $2,000-3,000, and you would get it in 1 or 2 days. You would get a check for that money. So that was really what kind of was our springboard into the world. And then as we transitioned, we added services throughout the years. We did try for a little bit of having insurance, but it just wasn't as a good mix. So we
Right.
went back and focused on tax and accounting, and that's been our real growth for the majority of our life as a business. About a year ago, however, realizing that, talking to a lot of folks like, oh, you're Pronto income tax, you're only tax. And that wasn't really resonating with what we do today, because we're really advisors. We're in an advisory role. We do a lot more tax planning. We help businesses understand their cash flow. So if you're doing all of these things and your name says income tax, people are just not
Right.
making that connection. So we made the name change. So we transitioned, it was our second transition in name, from Fast Refunds to Pronto Income Tax, and then today to Pronto Advisors, because that really encompasses a lot better of who we are and what we've become as a difference of where we were.
Okay, perfect. I was going to ask you exactly that. Like back in 1991 was when your father started the firm. What was the name back then?
It was first fast refunds briefly, and then he's like, no, 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 we have to do something different, and we did pronto income tax. That was the
Okay, perfect. No, sometimes I always like just to know that story because that's something that usually happens. Maybe you're starting a business and you don't have the ideal name, and you just go with whatever you have, and then well, basically you iterate, and sometimes that happens.
you transitioned that Facebook was originally the Facebook, and someone said, why don't you get rid of the, right? So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I mentioned early when I introduced you because I know you like food travel. Do you travel specifically? This is a topic that it's an interest personally for me. I'm also a foodie guy. Do you usually go and travel just to like a food travel?
So I would say that I take advantage of all the food opportunities when I travel. Uh,
Okay,
but not necessarily specifically like I want to go eat this cuisine, but I
right.
do take advantage of making sure that I try local food of wherever I travel to try different foods. If my wife makes fun of me, she says that if there's something on the menu that she's like, never in a million years I would order that. She's like, that's what you're gonna order. And that's pretty much it because I always try to order something different because I feel like we have these routines and these things that we eat all the time. So if you're given the opportunity, for example, like we never make lamb at home, but if I go to a restaurant and there's lamb, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pick lamb. It's just that thing. But yeah, I love when we travel, love to try what's local. Like, I don't go to the Caribbean and order salmon because salmon is not from the Caribbean, right? So you're like, what fish do you have fresh that you fished today? That's the fish I'm gonna have, even if I've never heard of it. And it's just and then, oh, and you have a mango sauce. You're like, yes, I will try it with a mango sauce. Or no, you make it with some fruit I've never heard of. Yes, I will try it. What was it in Colombia, pitaya, right? Like I had pitaya. What is that? And so I had that, and it was wonderful. But I didn't know what it was, and so yeah,
I love the answer that you gave and how you put the words together because that's exactly you describe it. I couldn't describe it in a better way, but I'm exactly the same. Like whenever I go to a restaurant for the first time, I'm just gonna tell or ask them, hey, what's the best thing you guys have, without caring like whether it's I like all type of foods, but if there's something special that they have there that it's fresh, so I'm gonna ask for a suggestion and I'm gonna go with that. And I like just to be open minded, and I tell them just surprise me. I don't know, maybe there was like one or two not incredible experience or bad experience that it was not the best thing, but all 98% of the rest, it was great, and that's how I approach that exactly how you said it. So
I
that's
actually
that's
have a
great.
funny anecdote with that. I was in Vegas, and I was just like, I went to it was an Italian restaurant that the I don't remember the name of the restaurant because I don't think it exists anymore. And the chef owner was a former boxer, and he happened to be in that night. And I just turned to the waiter. I'm like, look, I just want something different. Like, surprise me. Like, whatever he feels like up to making. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And he went back, talked to the chef, and he comes back. He says, so you're not allergic to anything? I'm like, I'm not allergic to anything. I'm not going to send anything back. Bring me whatever you want. And they brought me something I would have never ordered. I forgot what they accompanied it with. I think it was a risotto that they made just for me. So no one else in the restaurant had this risotto. And they made the special crawfish, which I'm not a huge fan of. But when I had it there, it was incredible. It was probably one of the best meals I've ever had in Vegas. And it was all, and the chef came out and talked to me afterwards, like, what'd you think? How'd you like it? I think I might add that to the menu. So yeah, if you're open and you really like food, doing that surprised me, which also drives my wife nuts. The waiter's like if the waiter doesn't talk to the chef, then that's not a place you want to say surprise me to. But if the waiter like goes back there and they talk to the chef, then yes, you say surprise me, bring me whatever you want, and I'll.
I agree 140% with what you've said. Yeah, yeah. Since we're talking already about food, I need just to ask this question. I usually ask Michael, what's your favorite food?
You know, I struggle with that because it's not going to be a meal. But my favorite food are croquetas. Croquetas.
Croquetas, really?
Yes. So, If I have a Cuban coffee and two croquetas, that brings me bigger joy. If the doctor ever wants to kill me and just say like, don't you can never have croquetas or coffee again, that would be it. That'll be it. I'll be like, life is not worth living. I'd rather, and not that I have it all the time, but and I have like I know like when you come to Miami, I would take you to the best croquetas. And it's a place that everyone's like, really? I'm like, yes, this is the best place to have a coffee and do croquetas. The restaurant, okay, but the croquetas are incredible because not only are they good, since they sell so many of them, they're constantly coming out fresh.
Right.
So there's not a staleness to them. So that to me is like my go-to. So yeah.
That's great. Incredibly, I've been asking this question for since I started. Well, not since the first episode, but on the first season of Humans in Accounting. I started with a Taylor from Celerity, and since then I've been asking this question to every single guest I had here in Humans in Accounting. Croquetas now with is actually it has two votes. You're the second one who
Really?
said croquetas, so I'm surprised. Tell me a little bit more. Like, what are these croquetas? Are they all the same? What do they have inside?
Yeah, I mean, my go-to is ham. My go-to is
Ham,
ham. And it's funny because there's different, you know, I think the Cuban style of croquetas is different than necessarily like the Spanish style, which tends to have like chunks of ham and more like
right?
cream. So I think that I like the composition typically of the Cuban croquetas. I like how it's just if you could, you make that sound when you slice a knife across, you just hear that crick like
Yes,
it's just but ham is my go-to. I've had all sorts of croquetas. I think in Australia I even had like whatchamacallit, kangaroo croquetas. So
really.
yeah, like it was like croquettes with kangaroo. Yes, yes, please. I'll try that. I'll try it. Yeah,
Uh,
but two ham croquetas with a coffee, strong coffee, that can power me through, especially if you're like busy. Like sometimes people are like, oh, I'm gonna scarf down a sandwich, and like that gets me like lethargic because of the bread, and this is it gives you energy. You have some protein. I don't know. It's obviously not the healthiest thing, so you can't do it. Now I want croquetas. I'm gonna
and
go have two croquetas
it's
after this.
you have it on the side with coffee. You said right. You
Yeah.
have it with coffee.
And most of the time, I'll sprinkle lime on it. They give you cracker. The Cuban presentation is put it in a basket. Here's your two croquetas. There's some saltine crackers wrapped, and then lime. So you put some lime on it. It just the taste. And there's people who don't like ham, and so a lot of people who are more like chicken. The chicken ones are good too. If my preference,
Okay,
100%.
okay, perfect. Here in Argentina, we're recording this last day of April, and at 33 a.m. I'm having mates, and how you're describing this croquetas, I just want to have one right now. But let's change. Whenever I go to Miami, I'll let you know, and please take me to that place that were describing because I want to have that coffee with those croquetas. All right. Okay. Thank you for that answer. Let's go back to Pronto Advisors. I have questions about that. First, I do know that you work with mainly with real estate, but you have like do you have a specific niche, a type of client that you work? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I'd say on the personal side, we work a lot with high income, high net worth folks who really need tax planning
Hmm.
because, tax filing is sort of the conclusion of the chapter of your tax plan, right? So if you have a
Right.
plan, you execute against it when you do your tax filing, it's all according to what your expectations were. And even that happens is like simple, right? If you're a W-2, you know how much you're going to pay. You have this idea and you're going to be at the end. But a tax plan, when you have more things, you're high income, you're typically seven-figure plus, you're paying hundreds of thousands in taxes as an employee, and you're looking for strategies to make things better. Then the
Right.
second side of that is the business side. And that's where we work with a lot of business owners who typically either are dedicated to real estate. So that means that they have multifamily or commercial properties, or what happens a lot is that they are in some other profession. They are doctors and lawyers and dentists, or they have an aviation company or a staffing company, and then they also invest in real estate. And so they typically, our typical profile is they have multiple entities and they need someone to help them manage not just the compliance aspects of it, but the how do we grow and how do we do
Right.
so in a tax efficient manner. And I think that's really where we excel is to come up with this overall overguiding plan for them to grow their business, make money, and do so in what's will be the most tax efficient method for them.
Okay, that's perfect. And you work with clients all over the US, correct?
Yes, our clients are all over the US. As I said, we know we've had clients from Alaska to Miami. So basically everywhere in the US. Obviously, because of geographics, folks always look for close to or people, or we've had people who've moved away. So most of our clients concentrate in the southeast of the United States. But yes, we have clients in California and Washington, Illinois, Pennsylvania. So all over New York. So we have clients all over the US.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Let me ask you through all these years being here at the directing Pronto Advisors. What's if I ask you for a milestone for an achievement? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Yeah, you
Hmm.
accomplished.
For me, it's tough to get further from like being I would say almost part of the pioneering of when electronic filing first took off. I
Uh
think
huh.
I think where we're going, we're gonna hopefully surpass that milestone. But where I think from our history, that was a big one. We were at the forefront on the leading edge of that curve when people were first starting to electronically file, understand what that meant, doing the refund anticipation loans or getting it direct deposited into their bank account. That was revolutionary, which
Right.
today we take for granted, right? This year the IRS is no longer or they're pushing back on mailing paper checks unless they absolutely have to. So you're in a place from where they went to, we were, this is 35 years ago, right? Where we were depositing money directly into your bank account, electronically filing to the IRS. So I think I think that was the vision, that my dad had at that moment. Like, this is what's happening. I learned from him about reading a lot and knowing what's going on in the world. And that was one thing that he did. It's like, this is going in the world. This is going to be the opportunity for us to grow and to have a great business. So that's, I think, the big one for me.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. I don't know if we can talk about because we were talking. When was it? Last week we were talking in Spanish. I can tell the audience, people in the future who are listening, Michael and myself. Sometimes we have conversations, but we do it in Spanish. But we were talking in Spanish, and you mentioned something that I'm curious, and I want to know more. Do you have an MVP putting together? Tell me about this
Yeah, yeah,
platform. I don't know. You're building something. I wanna know. I
yeah,
know it might be early stages. I don't know if you're ready just to talk, but I'm curious. What are you
yeah.
building? Tell me everything.
I think to go to the present and then talk about the future. I'm going to go to the past.
Okay.
Since we started accounting, we were using for folks in the accounting field, they're going to resonate with this is going to resonate for them. We're using accountants trial balance, which is back in DOS, and that was from the AICPA. And that was wonderful. And I know it was DOS, but it was super straightforward, super simple. But then everything went to Windows, and AICPA decided we're not going to do this anymore, and they basically sold their book of business because they didn't actually sell the product to a company by the name of Creative Solutions, who had an accounting platform. I think it was Creative Solutions Accounting, and then they transitioned that to a third product. And what ends up happening is that this platform has been around for a long time, right? Like, I'm talking about late 90s, early
Hmm.
2000s, and it was purpose built for accountants. But think about where the world was 26 years ago, where things were more focused on, I do this and I'm not really sharing information. Even the banks, right? Online banking
Right.
was like a new thing. So there was this thing where this is purpose built for accountants. And there hasn't really been an evolution, right? Then Revolutionary kind of came on with like QuickBooks, but QuickBooks created a ledger solution that makes you, a business owner, have to do the work. Right. And then they said, well, we'll let you bring in your accountant and let your accountant kind of manage your books, but it's really meant for you, the business owner. It's not really meant for the accountant. And so the challenge that we've seen is there needs to be something kind of in the middle that satisfies you as a business owner to know where you are and what's happening, and
Hmm.
it facilitate the accountant to actually perform the work. So we set out, been kind of working on this for a couple of years, and of the idea and fleshing it out. But in this last year, we've developed our own ledger solution. And what this ledger is going to be is kind of that middle of the road that allows us as an number one is going to be a differentiator for us as an accounting firm, because as far as I know, there's not another accounting firm that will offer their clients their own ledger solution that is
Right.
interconnected with their banking, that's interconnected to Gusto for their payroll. That future integrations into Stripe and PayPal to pull data directly, so that you have all these distinct data sources all kind of being converged in one, and so that you as a business owner, you can run reports to your heart's content, but not have to do the accounting or the bookkeeping or anything behind that. You can answer questions about that, about the what's going on from the accountant, right? The accountant say, "Hey, I need to know about these transactions. Who's Alex Roman and why are you paying him?" Right? And so then we'll come up. Well, Alex Roman is not a person; it's a company, and they supply us sheet metal. I just made you a sheet metal company, Alex. And I apologize.
I love that.
But yeah, so you as a business owner are going to be able to jump in, see the pulse of how much money in the bank, what's my expected cash position at the end of the month, right? So there's going to be some cash flow analytics. And so there's going to be sort of instead of being historian, it's going to be historian where you're at and where you're going. And I think that that's really the key of unlocking the value as a business owner, because you need gauges in order, just like a pilot, to make decisions. And you're going to have these gauges available to you so that you can make these decisions in real time with real data and be able to then make accurate decisions. Hey, I want to invest, I want to make this capital outlay. I want to make this investment. What's my cash position if I take out $50,000 to do this? Oh, my cash position is estimated to be $10,000 at the end of the month. That's not good. I don't have the cash position to potentially do that. Right. And that's obviously shorter term, but you can still do your long-term planning and all of those things, but sometimes opportunities arise. So I think that's where we are today, is this platform that's really going to be a differentiator for us as a firm. And I think that um, you know, with the advent of AI and all of the opportunities that are afforded, I don't want to talk too much about what the future holds, but just think of having a conversation like you would with Claude or ChatGPT with your finances, but still backed by humans, right? So there's still the humans in accounting, they're still important, right? And so humans will still be there providing the advisory, the long-term support, but because they'll have these tools, they'll be able to better support you as a business owner and provide better insight instead of being in the numbers or crunching, what's Alex Roman. We've already handled that. You've already told us what it is, and we've made those
And
transitions.
Michael, let me ask you a question. Are you thinking this is a, like I said, an added value for the specifically for the clients of Pronto Advisors, or are you thinking this is a separate firm? And do you eventually think of giving this software, this platform, to other users, other accounting firms, other?
Yeah, the
What are your
initial the
thoughts?
initial is where if you've ever been in technology, there's that thing that Microsoft said about eating your own dog food. So we're gonna eat our own dog food. We're gonna
Right.
we're gonna improve upon it, and it's gonna be a differentiator for us. And I think that there's an opportunity, and I think from what I've talked to people, that they miss some of the easiness because they end up then pulling stuff into Excel and doing things in Excel. I want to pull people out of Excel, out of multiple data sources into one place where they could do accounting. And I think that there's an opportunity here for accounting firms to leverage this and not be not giving business to potentially, the large providers like Intuit and Zero, where they're going after directly your clients, right? And that's really not the idea of this platform. This is built for accountants, for business owners, but the idea is not to go after those direct clients, right? The idea is
All
to
right.
to accounting firms, and I think that for a lot of accounting firms, this will be a differentiator because it's not QuickBooks, and there will be a path for a migration path for QuickBooks or from Zero, but the real potential there is that now you're being superhuman because you now have these tools and abilities that you didn't have before through the platform.
This is great. I'm super interested. I'm gonna follow up on this because My background is I worked a lot with like with startups building MVPs, and I want to know. I want to follow up with you in a few months and a few years just to see how this is going. But I think it's super interesting, and definitely it's gonna add a lot of value for your clients. And it does make sense just to first iterate it with your client, see what is working, see what's not, see what are the features that maybe you're not even thinking now that could be an option that one of your clients says, hey, it would be super cool to have this or that. And then once you have something, you can evaluate as the next step. I don't know, uh, open just to other accounting firms or other markets. Michael, well, we talked about many things. I'm super happy that we were able just to do this episode together. I'm gonna ask you a question that's a question that I personally like asking to all my guests because I always learn something new. What's a good advice? Let's say now, yeah, May 2026. What's a good advice that you can give someone who is working on a job for someone else, and they're thinking of, hey, I'm gonna go ahead. I think now it's a good timing. I have all the tools. I'm ready. I want to jump and I want to start my own business, my own accounting firm. What's a good one or two advice that you can give them?
I think there's two. Well, if we're talking about businesses in general, I think things I learned from my dad. Right, it's going to take longer than you think, and cash flow is king. Period. Right? It doesn't matter if you sell $1 billion a year if you don't have the cash when you need it to pay the things that you need in order to
Right,
continue progressing in your business or developing your business. You're not going to get ahead. So I think that's really, as you're looking at it, is that it's you think you're going to have how many clients in 6 months? Well, it's probably going to take you twice as long, right?
right,
And so you got to factor that into your cash flow. For accounting firms, I read something about, and I think it's true, private equities going crazy with acquisitions in accounting. So that means there's something there, right? They're not just throwing money into something to
right,
see what happens. I mean, they do that with startups, but they're going after the whole industry. So I think there's opportunities. One, because obviously big money is betting on this, and then two, because as some of that private equity goes in and acquires firms, there's this opportunity to differentiate yourself and provide less corporate and more high touch services. So I think that's how do you differentiate yourself from the larger firms? That's one of the ones, is because you're able to provide that. I think that that kind of high touch
right,
feel. I think determining your niche, right? We talked about that we work a lot with folks in real estate, and that's really doesn't mean that we don't work with folks in other industries. We do, but we have industries we don't go to, right? And so I think
right,
that's also good. It's good to say no, right? It's hard to do that in the first 100,000, right? You got to make your first 100,000 a year, and you're like, okay, now I can start saying no, right? Because you got to pay the bills, right? And you can't afford to say no from the gate unless it's really outside of your wheelhouse, right? But if something's adjacent and you can handle it, and even if that's not your long-term goal as a client, fine, take it. You might also be surprised that you start acquiring folks outside of the niche that you had thought, and that it's also good because you're seeing the growth potential. So you may make an adjustment. So I think having that niche, having that, so kind of backwards. I'll start again. Uh, it's gonna take longer than you think. Cash flow is king. So you gotta have a real good plan for that. Determine a niche if you can, but you gotta work on your first 100K, right? The 100K is the 100 first 100,000 a year. And then from there, determine how do you continue to grow. There's all the intricacies of all the difficult stuff. There's tech stacks, and the tech stacks that are here today were not the tech stacks that were there 5 years ago, and folks have transitioned, and it sticks to transition. But don't feel bad if you pick the wrong thing, right? It's way too many things kind of going
right,
down.
right. And on top of that, in 5 years from now, then they're gonna be I don't know what there's gonna be in 5 years from now. So yeah, and then you mentioned something like the fourth point or the fifth. It's super key just to say no. Sometimes it feels like no, but this is a business. Then in the long run, you just understand that, hey, maybe it would have not been this headache from the beginning, from minute one. I said, hey, you know what, maybe we're just not the right fit for what you're looking for, and that's okay, because you're gonna have some time just to invest it in other things that you're doing probably better. So that's also super important.
And I think just as important as saying no, there's also the yes and. So yes, I could do that, and it's going to cost you extra. So don't be afraid to do that. What do you mean that's not included? Like, no, here's our engagement letter. We're doing this. You just bought another business that's extra work, extra money, or you need this one-off thing. Happy to do it, but it's an additional cost, right? And don't be afraid to say that. And because no one works for free, right? What are they gonna, even if they get upset at you, will call someone another account. The other account's going to tell them the exact same thing. They might have a different price, but that's still probably the only thing. They're still going to charge them for it, right? And I think that that's something that we're afraid. Oh, I don't want to upset the client. I don't want to lose them. And sometimes that's okay.
I'm just thinking now out loud, like if someone in the future is watching this on, I don't know, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and is what, I don't know, listening to all this advice. I feel that some of this advice, it's they can take it, but some other is like, I don't know. This is me just thinking out loud. Like, you got to experience it. Like, maybe you need just to have that first mistake and experience that, and then say, oh, now I understand what Michael said in that podcast, Humans in Accounting, with that cool host, Alex.
Yep.
So
I 100% always regret the price shopper giving in on like a discount, or 100% of the times you will regret it. They will
yeah,
be more work, and you're already upset because you agreed to a lower price. So draw your boundaries. Make sure that folks, and it's hard. And I know I'm saying it, but again, and then again, the 100 grand, right? Like you can also get it to the 100 grand. So,
right.
so you gotta like maybe stretch a little, but you're gonna notice once you pass that 100 grand, you come back, and you're like, yeah, that was a bad idea. Taking that for, taking 10% off. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal, but now I have so much more work because it wound up being more work, or they're more demanding, and that tends to happen a lot. So yeah,
It does. Michael, I'm super happy we made this episode together. I'm definitely gonna let you know interested in having with you. Thank you so much for being part of Humans in Accounting. It was a pleasure having you. All right?
thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.